If you have a 2007 to I think it's 2014 or 2015 Lexus RX350 or a Toyota that has the 3.5 Toyota V6 engine in it, you need to heed my advice, heed my warning right now. My wife was driving home last Thursday, and suddenly she called me like 3 times in a row, which is unusual for her because she knows that I get busy doing stuff. I'm riding motorcycles or mowing a lawn or running a chainsaw. But anyway, on the 3rd call, I answered it because I saw she was calling, and she was all frantic, and she was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with the car. And I'm like, what is it? And she says, well, when she slows down or lets off the accelerator pedal, the low oil pressure light and a little caution thing comes on her dash. And I'm like, okay, so it's only when you slow down? Or yeah, she's like, yeah, whenever I come up to a stop sign, the car is making like some, the way she described it, like ticking sounds, kind of like lifter sounds, things like that, valve train sounds. Only when she comes to a stop though, not when she's driving the car. And I said, well, what's it doing right now? And at that moment, she was driving like 45 miles an hour. And she said, well, now it's driving fine. There's no lights on the dash. I'm like, okay, well, keep your RPMs where they are. Drive straight home. She was close to home. She was within like a few miles from the house here. So she went ahead and drove it on home. I told her if the oil light came on again, or if it started blinking or anything like that, to immediately pull over and I would come and bring her some oil. Because that's what needed to happen. I needed to put some oil in the car because I knew it was low, obviously. If it's indicating low oil pressure at any point, that's an indication you're out of oil. And I was trying to explain to my wife in the nicest way without mansplaining that I could that low oil pressure basically means no oil pressure. So anytime that you guys see that warning light, I advise you to immediately pull over as at the soonest, safest opportunity you have where you can get out and inspect and check the oil, right? Because it can happen. And the way they design these cars, Toyota even admitted later on that it was a design flaw, and Lexus as well, because they use the same engine. That basically they put these oil cooler lines, they're right in front of where the oil filter is. And what you need to do to see if your car has been upgraded before in the past, because by now, if you own a 2010 or a 2007 or whatever, it's obviously well out of the warranty. So what you need to do to make sure that this doesn't happen to you is that either right now, which I would highly advise, or at least the very next time you change the oil, you need to inspect your rubber hoses. If you have the rubber hoses that are up underneath there, right in front of the oil filter, if you see some big, like, I don't know, they look like 1 inch or 3/4 inch diameter rubber hoses, and they're like 2 little elbows, right? If you see that, then that means your car has not been upgraded. And I highly recommend you upgrade the car to the all metal lines. I believe they're aluminum. They feel like and they look like they're aluminum, but I'll take you over and show you that here in a moment. Let me get you in here and show you what we're going to be working on today, because I was not planning on doing this weekend. I had a whole bunch of other stuff going. And in fact, if you look around, my big shop is cleaner than it's been probably in several years, because that's what I was in the middle of. I had my entire shop torn apart, and my wife called me and was like, oh my God, my car is screwed up. So I had to shift all my focus, move everything. I was up till like 2 in the morning, 2 or 3 nights in a row trying to get this shop finished off. And luckily I did a pretty good job and I got my goal accomplished. But now I have to address this because it's Sunday and my wife has to drive this to work tomorrow. So, I mean, I guess she could drive my Suburban again, but it's better if she can drive this. So we're gonna get in here and see if I can show you. Now, to save time in the video, I already pulled off the bib thing that goes right here, or the apron, or whatever you want to call it, the air dam that goes right here. I pulled that off, because, I mean, surely you can figure that out. If you can work on a car at all, you'll be able to figure out how to get the apron thing off. The only thing that was hard about it is dealing with these chintzy little plastic clips that they put all over the place. Now, there was only like 4 or 6 of these, but I struggled with every single one of them. I'm sure they probably make some special tool that I don't have or whatever that pops these right out. But what I find is a really small flat blade screwdriver will usually do the trick. And there's also some bolts right there that hold that on. But yeah, it basically coated down the entire underside of this car. And I asked my wife, I'm like, didn't you see any smoke or anything billowing out of the back? She said, no. So this could happen to you suddenly at highway speeds, and your engine will piss out all of its oil before you have a chance to even know what hit you. So be warned, guys, this is a big deal. And if I had known about this before it happened, I would have changed it in advance, but I didn't know until it happened. So it was one of those deals. I mean, this car has been so reliable for us that in a way it kind of makes you a little bit complacent, you know. But okay, can you see that rubber hose right there that has a 90-degree bend in it and kind of goes back away from us? That's the front hose of the oil cooler. The other one, hopefully you can see the clamp in there, kind of in the middle of that, the crook of the bend there. You can see that other clamp. The other one, I believe, is the one that's leaking. Now, I haven't actually seen the hose myself, but last night I had the wife come out here while I had the camera running, and I fired it up and I ran it and I tried to pinpoint it, but I was afraid to get my camera all coated with oil. So I was like, you know, a little worried about sticking it right directly up in there. But I got pretty close, so we'll insert that video clip right here. Okay, go. Shut it off. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the oil cooler lines. Hopefully you guys can see up in there. And of course, my screen went off on my GoPro. You know, they do all these things for you. I don't like that stuff. When my computers and my camera start doing stuff for me, it's never the thing that I actually want it to do. So I wish they would just stop putting that crap in there. And there may be some way to turn it off that I'm just unaware of. Let me get up in here with my hand and maybe I can point to this. See that little, what are we going to call that? A junction block right there, or, you know, I don't know what to actually call that thing, but the piece there that bolts onto the engine. There are two nuts and a bolt on each side of this thing. And I think the reason that the factory went with the rubber hoses was because they could slip those on after the fact. And so it probably made it a little bit easier for them as far as assembly. And it was probably easier to put together with the rubber hoses. But that's the catalytic converter right there. Here's the rubber hoses. So you can imagine there's all kinds of heat going on right here in this area of the car. And so that's going to heat that rubber up and shorten the life of that. So that was just an idiotic thing for Toyota and Lexus to do, but they did it and it caught up to me. So luckily, yesterday when I was getting ready to pull the car in, I filled it up with oil. I added about 4 quarts of oil to it just to bring it up in between the hash marks of the, you know, normal oil fill line on the dipstick. And anyway, so I added like 4 quarts and I had my wife get in and start the engine up. And as it was running there, I didn't hear any strange noises or anything like that. But obviously, because this happened, I'm changing the oil. Okay, as I was saying, pretty much everything that you're going to be using will be standard stuff, I believe. I've got my shallow well sockets out here. So far, they've been working for me. I've got my 3/8 drive ratchet, a couple of 3 different extension links, and this is probably the most important thing here. You're going to need a socket swivel. This is a 3/8 drive socket swivel. I've heard some people call these universal joints, but that's not actually correct. They're called a swivel. And you're going to need that to be able to get into those tight spots. Here's that little screwdriver I use just to pick those little clips out of there. I don't know what to call them. You're probably going to need a couple of wrenches. I didn't show you, but I disconnected the oxygen sensor and I just basically unplugged it and I unscrewed the bracket from the frame so I could move it out of the way. It was a 10mm wrench is what I had to use on that. And we might need a 12mm because all of those bolts up in there that hold the oil pipe on, or the oil cooler pipe on, are 12mm, and there may be some instances that we can't get a socket in there. So I've got that on standby. Here are those female Torx heads. I don't really know what to call these things. I've rarely ever used these things, but it's one of those deals when you need it, you need it. And I think we're going to need this one right here, and I believe it's an E8. Yeah, it says E8. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but I think that's the one we're going to need. And what they say is sometimes you have to pull the studs out to get the new rigid metal one in here. So Let me see, any other tools? I don't think so. I did end up using my impact driver just to speed up taking the apron, as I call it, or the air dam thing off the front. Let me show you the part here. This is what I had to go over to Toyota and get. Here's the part number. If you want to pause the video and check that out, you can. But you can see, instead of rubber making the bends, they put these little flexible, somewhat flexible. I don't really think they have any flex to them, but they're, you know, designed to fit right in. And they probably have a slight little bit of flex, so if you have to, you could move it a little bit, I'm sure, to get it in location. But it kind of reminds me of what you might see on the top of your hot water heater in the house or something. But the point is, it's rigid pipe. It's really nice. They brazed it. I'll show you more when we unpackage the thing here. But they brazed it instead of welding it. And I was going to go over to AutoZone or one of the standard parts houses and buy one over there. But I started reading the reviews, and people were like, man, this thing didn't fit right. The welds were sloppy. It just, you know, some people were saying the machine surfaces here were not fully machined or flat. So they had to actually take a file to make the thing work. And I'm like, man, I don't want to hassle with something like this. That's basically one of the main arteries of the lifeblood of your engine. I wanted to go ahead and get 100% Toyota part. And so that's what we did. Now, I'm sure you could go to Lexus as well, and it's probably the same part, might even be the same part number. You're going to need a couple of these gaskets here because I'm sure the old ones are bad. I'm not going to take any chances on anything. Here's the part number on that. Here's the other one. You can pause the video, check that out. If you want to look these part numbers up, I'm not going to put them in the description. If you want the part numbers, here they are. So what I'm saying is, please don't ask me for the part numbers. I don't have time for that sort of stuff. You can go do your own research just like I did. I'm not trying to be rude, but so many people are just so damn lazy that they'll come in and be like, oh, well, what's the part number for this? Or where'd you buy this? After I've told them what to do in the video. So pay attention to the video, pause it when you need to, and you'll be able to get this information. All right, here we go. I already took these loose here off camera. And I just wanted to tell you something. I had to go over to my socket stash. I've got a big pile of sockets that are random ones, and I was able to find one. I believe this is a Stanley, but it doesn't matter. You need to find one that's in the middle of the very short socket that I had. Mine was a Craftsman, and it wouldn't fit it. The short socket wouldn't, and the long one was too long to get into some of the applications, like back in there to that bolt. So I needed a medium or whatever. So luckily I already had one that was the right length, and so I already busted these here loose. And we just got to take those the rest of the way out. I've got the oil filter out right now, and as I busted the as I busted this loose, and I could tell that I'm actually getting loose on the thing, it created a vacuum and allowed, or released the vacuum and allowed oil to flow out where the oil filter is flowing. Point down at that. So you're going to want to have some sort of a catch bucket around so that when you're doing this, you can catch the oil. I guess you could put the oil filter back on, but it mounts right in here. I thought it might get in my way if I'm trying to do if I actually have to use wrenches on a couple of these to get them loose. But we're going to try to use this medium length socket, I guess you'd call it, or maybe it's still considered a short length, but it's a longer version of that. So it was able to fit on those bolts just like this. And that one's going to be fairly easy to get to. Now they're in there pretty tight. I broke it loose, but I also knocked my socket off. Okay, that one's loose. That's good. That metal one's going to be a little tricky to get onto. And you want to make sure you're seated all the way on there if you can. This dadgum thing is right in my way no matter what. So I'll try to, it's probably in your way now. Sorry about that, but oh man, what is the deal? That sucker is really tight. Maybe if I put the ratchet up in there a little more. That's not a good sign. Okay. I call this Maxwell silver hammer. I've had it for years. I don't even remember how I got it, but somebody welded a piece of pipe onto a ball peen hammer. And so it's the ultimate universal hammer tool because it also acts as a really stout cheater bar. So when you need a little more persuasion, we can use Maxwell instead of breaking our knuckles. There we go. Oh yeah. Thank you, sir. All right. And just so you know, one of the things you're going to want to do is go into the kitchen when your wife's not looking and grab one of her glass bowls. These are excellent for catching oil, and you can clean it out, and sometimes if you clean it out quick enough, she won't even know that you ever used it. So another thing here is her hair towels. She has specific hair towels that she uses. I'm just kidding, obviously. Don't do that to your wife. That'll end in divorce, surely. I don't want that for anybody. Let me know down in the comments. Does your wife have separate hair towel from body towel? Is that just a chick thing or what? I've never understood it. It's like the 47 pillows on the bed. What's that all about? But anyway, let's get in here. I guess it's sort of like having a whole extra bin of random sockets that you may not ever use until one day you need one. I suppose it's sort of like that. Okay, I think this is going to be our hardest one here because I can't get a straight shot on it. Let's see. Call Maxwell in for a little assistance. Oh yeah. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Okay. All right, I'm gonna move this light out of my way because now the oil may start raining down at any moment. And I want to get my my wife's hair towel down in position so they can keep my nice shop floor clean. There we go. All right, now, did I get them loose enough? Nope. Yeah, I hate wearing these plastic gloves, but my fingers are all sliced up and I didn't want to get a bunch of oil in my cuts. I know. Just be a man and just take the oil right in the open cut. I know, that's what you would do, right? Okay, that one's gonna come right out. I lose dexterity with these gloves on and I don't like it. Okay. And the hard one. I'm not getting on it. That one there, it's almost at the maximum angle of the swivel. Okay, it's coming. Sorta. I can't do it. I tried to be Safety Sally and I couldn't do it. Probably never get it back on again. That's why I hate safety. It's not even the right finger. It's supposed to be the middle finger. It's the one I use the most. Oh, ow. Never mind all those creaking and cracking sounds. That's not the lift. That's just me when I move around. That's what happens when you're over 40. Okay. So I think we're all unbolted. Took 6 things off, 4 nuts and 2 bolts. So I think we're ready to pull this thing out, and hopefully we can catch everything down below. Not sure if there's one side I should pull off first or what, but I'm guessing this side. Okay. Gasket just fell down. And I want to pay attention because those were 2 different part number gaskets. So I want to make a note that the gasket that fell out over here on the left side that's closest to the accessories, that's this gasket right here. So I'm going to set that on the ramp over here and just make a mental note of that. Okay, that's loose. Now, what's the deal here? It's like it's stuck on that stud right there. There we go. Just had to wiggle it just right. Okay, there's the other gasket. I like how they self-eject. I mean, that's pretty smart, man. Lexus designed these things with the mechanic in mind. Okay, so now we gotta play this game of slippity slide it. Oh shit, I lost the game. Completely missed the hair towel and the bucket. Okay, that's the other gasket. We'll put it on the other side over here. Dry up our mess right quick. And next up here, I'm not going to film this, but the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to get in here and clean up all of these mating surfaces with some brake cleaner. And if I need to, I don't think I'll need to, but if I need to, I'll take a little razor blade and, you know, a nice flat scraper style razor blade and scrape that off without damaging the machine surface, because I can clearly see that's aluminum there. Anything you do on aluminum, like putting bolts in and doing things like this, or scraping on it or cleaning on it, you need to be a little more careful because it's not as hard as steel, and you don't want to screw up or booger up the face of that because it's a nice machine surface. So we're going to have to do that on both sides. For whatever reason, that side actually already looks pretty clean. Just a little brake cleaner and some one of my wife's hair towels ought to get that done. This side over here, though, it's going to need a little bit more work. So we'll pause the video here. I'll get all that cleaned up, and then we'll struggle to put that new part in. All right, we got those machine surfaces all cleaned up. I did have to take a razor blade to that one, but I was just really careful about it, and it came out really nice. The brake cleaner is the way to go, man. That cleans that up really nice. So also, I figured out which gasket goes to which side. This is the old gasket I pulled off. As you can see, it's covered in oil. And I just matched it up with this one here. And I want to show you something right quick. Hopefully the camera is picking up. These have a little bulge on them on one side. On the other side, it's a divot in. You want the bulge to go towards the new oil pipe that you're putting on. So this is going out away from the engine. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, match these up because they are slightly different from side to side. So this one I'm calling the left side, although it's actually more appropriate to say just this side of the vehicle, because normally you would call that the right side of the vehicle. So I'm not trying to confuse anyone. This is the one that's actually closest to the pulleys on the accessory drive on the front of the engine. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Make sure I've got the new one in my hand. Yes, I do. Okay, and I think what I'm going to do, I also come back up here. I had to pull those studs out. I don't know, I didn't want to fight with it very much, so I just went ahead and pulled those studs out, and it turns out it was an E8. That was the size of that stud socket to get on there. I left them in this side. What I'm hoping is I'll be able to put the gasket on here, and I'm probably going to have to use a little dab of some sort of a silicone adhesive, you know, Permatex type stuff, just so that I can hold the gasket in place while I try to fit the part in there, right? And so I think that's what I'm going to do on this side. I'm not sure if I should try to put a little dab on this side as well. I think I will. I think I'll start with that. I'll put a little dab over there. And I'm not going to coat the whole surface. I'm just going to put one little dot somewhere so that hopefully it will hold my gasket in place while I'm trying to fit the thing in there. That's the plan anyway. So let's get on with it. Just pay attention to that. There is definitely one side that's supposed to go out on the gasket. So okay, I'll get a little bit of this stuff here. And of course my tube is almost dried up, so that's just wonderful. Okay. I think I'm going to put it around this bolt right here. And again, all this is doing is kind of gluing it in place while I get the fitting or the pipe in place. Go to your home. That one stuck a lot better. I like that. Okay. Now we're going to grab our new oil cooler pipe here. And it came with these little protector deals on here. Pop these off. Oh, beautiful. It's a beautiful part. I will say that. They braze these instead of welding them. And it looks really nice, like a really quality part there. So I got to give it to them on that. Okay, our gaskets are both in. I'm going to try to fish this back in there like so. And try not to knock that other gasket off over there. While I spin this over into position. All right, that went pretty well. Get a nut on. Drop a nut. Oh, you like it when I drop a nut? Where's your mind at? Okay, so now I gotta make sure we're all in alignment. And it doesn't look like we are. I'm not going to put the other nut on yet until I get this other side started. And I don't know how much of this you guys are going to be able to see because I'm going to have to get right up on it. Okay, it looks like that one will go in pretty easily. There's one. Hopefully this other one I'll be able to get in there a little easier to it. I don't think you could accurately use a torque wrench with a swivel like this and in a weird angle, so I don't know that it's even possible to torque these down, but I'm guessing around 20 foot-pounds of torque would be my guess, or less. So I'm not going to try to torque it at all. I'm just going to tighten it up and maybe put 1.5 grunts on it. I'll know then it's tight. Obviously, I'm going to use a ratchet, not just my hand. Okay, this one here is the one that's hard to get to. Oh, I haven't put the nut on yet. Use the force. All right, that went on. See if we can get our socket in position. Okay, that should work. Damn it, that thing is in my way no matter what. I'm going to just tighten that up a little. And I'm going to move over here. Just snug this up a little. And just kind of work around them. Until we get it to where we want it. That one's hard to get on. Almost impossible. Okay, so technically that was 1.5 grunts. So that's your torque specs for this job. Get that out, and we'll go with 1.5 grunts. All right. I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm going to come over and work on this other side, tighten it all up, and then I'll probably go back and put maybe one more grunt on each one of those. I don't want to strip any aluminum out, but I want them to be tight enough because this is the arteries of your vehicle right here, and like my wife found out the hard way, it pisses the oil out really fast when it starts leaking. So, and actually when we pulled it in the driveway here, or when we pulled it into the shop, it left a trail all the way from where the car was parked. So it was definitely squirting out a lot of oil. Here, I'll get some. Get on there. Okay, it's there. Okay, that's all connected. Tighten back up. I'm gonna go ahead and check this one more time, just over here, just to make me sleep better at night. There's this stupid thing again. Oh yeah, see, I got just I'd say that was a quarter grunt I got on it right there. Felt like it needed it. So let's go here. Yeah, that's just about what I expected. Okay, last one. Okay, it's already fully tight, so we're gonna leave that there. We're calling that torque to spec. All I have to do now is basically put everything back together, pull this wire back up over like so, and reconnect that. And then this thing here, this little spring thing just hooks on the line here and holds it and keeps it off of the catalytic converter. In fact, while my wife is out here, I want to show her this because I was trying to explain this to her the other day. And okay, so this right here is your catalytic converter, and it gets really hot. I don't know if it gets to 750 degrees like some people say online, but it does get really hot. The rubber hose was right there. I mean, not even a foot away from it. So that was part of the thing part of the reason that this was a design flaw by Toyota, to send it out of the factory with that rubber on there instead of this metal, you know, that looks like a hot water heater tank or whatever. That should have been the way it left the factory right there. And you know, you'd have never had any of these seized up on the road. But apparently it was enough of a problem that Toyota issued a recall, and Lexus as well, I presume, issued a recall. And if you got it in during that time frame, then you got your car fixed for free by Lexus. You know, if not, and you let it blow out and it burns your engine up, they weren't going to replace your engine, is basically what I'm trying to get at. But unfortunately, I believe that has expired, according to what my wife said the dealer told her, and that's no longer an option. So you have to do this yourself. Trust me, if you haven't done this yet to your Lexus, please go out there, do yourself a favor, go outside and just see if you have the rubber hoses. If you have the rubber hoses, the very next oil change you do, you should plan on doing this job, because it could potentially save the life of your engine. I want to show you one other little minor thing I had to do that I forgot to film. Over here, there's a little bracket. Can you guys see that? Up in there, there's a little bracket. I had to bend that little bracket back out of the way a little bit, and I just did it with my hand. I just reached up in there and bent it. It's just thin steel. But I'm gonna wanna remember to bend that bracket back before I put everything back together. But basically that's it, guys. We're going to fill the car up with oil. I'll probably start it up and just show you guys it doesn't leak after we're done. All right, we got her started back up. Obviously I filled it up with oil. I put 6 quarts in. I'll add the other half quart once I get it off the stand here. But anyway, everything's looking good. I'm going around and I'm visually inspecting for leaks. If you wanted to, you could leave this apron piece that goes right here. You could leave that off for a couple of days or whatever if you need to. I'm pretty confident that there's no leaks. I'm not seeing anything that's indicating to me that there are any leaks. So that definitely was what was wrong with it. I'm gonna leave the apron off, I think, for a day or two and just monitor it. And I'm gonna also take it down to the car wash right quick and try to get as much of that oil off as I can. But I think that is going to fix our problem, at least for today. So anyway, guys, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you've had to deal with this problem yourself. Let me know what you think about this job. I appreciate you tuning in as always. We'll see you next time.